small business is this gap, this lack of funding at grassroots level for startups and for grassroots business, for small business. So we explored this a little bit further and came up with the concept of crowdfunding. Not an idea we came up with, we basically explored, had a look around and found crowdfunding as a solution to filling that gap at the bottom of the funding ladder. Has everyone here heard of crowdfunding? Anyone heard of it before? Yay! Because usually you ask the question, 95% of the people in the room look at you as if you're speaking Japanese or something like that, and tilt their head to the side, squint a little bit and think, what the hell is he talking about? Which obviously now we've got a bit of momentum in the room, which is great. Crowdfunding, for those of you that aren't aware, started back in 1997 with a rock band in the UK called Marillion. And Marillion was doing big things in the UK, and they said, let's do a tour of the US. Fantastic idea, like a lot of small businesses, a lot of fantastic aspirations. One slight problem, they didn't have the 60 grand that they needed to get over and tour the US. So what ended up happening was that a few of their fans, a lot of their fans banded together and said, let's give them £10, £20, £50, £100. And pretty quickly that £60,000 mounted up. They went to the US, they did their tour, they were hugely successful. They came back and they had the list of all these people that had pledged all this money to them. So they turned around and gave them a record, a CD, a t-shirt, autographed pictures, all that sort of stuff. And without knowing it, crowdfunding was born. The crowd had funded an initiative by someone else to achieve a certain goal or a certain outcome. So crowdfunding is a very, very, very serious business because it's got a definition on Wikipedia, so it must be big. And as Wikipedia describes it here, crowdfunding describes the collective cooperation, attention and trust by people who network and pool their money and other resources together, usually via the internet, to support efforts initiated by other people and organisations. So basically it's the coming together of the crowd via the internet to pledge small amounts of money to achieve a larger objective. Pretty straightforward. So the crowdfunding platform is the type we're talking about today, which is the pledge model, which is, as we touched on earlier, where people pledge smaller amounts of money in return for rewards, which then comes together as a big pool, which can be used by startups and small organisations, and even bigger organisations, to fund their initiatives and aspirations. To give you an idea, it's pretty big around the world. This was as at the end of 2011. You see there are 138 crowdfunding sites in existence at that time in the US. There was a similar sort of size business in Western Europe. There was a smattering in Eastern Europe, which the inset there shows. We've got some in South America, South Africa, a little bit through Asia, and we had 7 in Australia. Yay. Since then, it's grown at 91% per annum. A few years ago we had a little thing, you may have read about it in the papers, called the GFC. Slowed business down a fair bit. Doesn't seem to have had an impact. You can imagine any industry that's growing at 91% year on year in post-GFC times is doing something right and something to attract the attention of the global market and global economies. People ask us what sort of funds can be raised. How much can you raise with this wonderful thing called crowdfunding? Here's an example of a young lady. She, Australian-based, wanted to raise $300 to go to India. She wanted to go there to audition for a Bollywood movie. Fantastic. I don't know how she's going to get there on $300. Maybe she's going to buy a swimsuit and swim, I don't know. But she put her project up there and she got people pledging. She eventually raised $600. She went to India. She actually auditioned for the movie and she got the part. Fantastic, cute little story. Nice, sweet little project. Moving up a couple of steps, these guys were a hip-hop band. They wanted to shoot a feature film. They wanted $3,000. They put it out to their crowd, their friends, their family, their fans, their followers. Ended up raising $4,000. They shot their movie. Again, a little bit bigger, a little bit medium size target. Then we start to get into some really exciting ones, some larger ones. These guys made a waterproof casing for the iPhone. I thought a plastic sandwich bag was a waterproof casing for an iPhone, but apparently there's proper ones. And these guys wanted to raise $30,000 to get into full-scale production. They put it out to the crowd. They put it out for 60 days, and they raised $54,000 from 586 people that were keen to support this sort of a project. So you start to see that you can raise reasonable amounts of money with the concept of crowdfunding. But wait, there's more. Diaspora, which was some software, they wanted to raise $10,000 to get this product out to market. They put it out there to the crowd via crowdfunding through a crowdfunding platform overseas. Ended up raising not their $10,000 target, but $200,000. So kind of a little bit oversubscribed. And 6,000 people put their hand in their pocket to say that they love it. And this is the whole thing. This is why when people say, is crowdfunding a fad or is it here to stay? It really is the next evolution of social media. Before, social media was all about, I like you. Now it's a matter of, I really like you, and I'm willing to put my hand in my pocket to show how much I do like you and what you're doing. So it's that next step, that next evolution of social media. This was the pin-up story of crowdfunding for quite a while. These guys had the iPod Nano, you know, the little iPod that you basically put in your pocket and you carry around and you listen to your music. They thought, wouldn't it be cool to put it onto a watch band? So they came up with a really funky watch band, really high quality sort of thing. They went to Apple, and the people at Apple said, we're not interested. No one will ever want to buy this. Close the door on your way out. So they went out dejected and they said, oh, well, we're down, but we're not out. We'll raise $15,000, we'll tool up and we'll manufacture a few of these watch bands ourselves, and maybe a few shops will want to sell them, and you know, we can make a bit of a living out of it. They put it on a crowdfunding campaign for 30 days. Within 30 days, they raised $941,000. On the 30th day, the phone rang. It was Apple. Maybe we got it wrong, guys. Can we talk? It's now on sale in every Apple store around the world. So what actually became the most powerful part of this whole campaign wasn't that figure of $941,000. It's the figure above that, the 13,000 people that reached in their pocket and pulled out cash to support this project as social proof. Again, Apple turning around and saying, guys, we got it wrong, we can see that there's a market for this. If you take this to the bank and the bank says, well, you know, what sort of confidence do you have in the product? Well, so far after 30 days, we've got 13,000 buyers of this product just in the first 30 days. It's a compelling argument to a bank that's social proof, or any other type of funder, that you've got that backing to take this and it's got legs to carry on further. I'll go back to that because it's such a good slide. Quite often people will ring us up and they'll say, hey, listen, I've got a project, how big an amount of money is too big for crowdfunding? And you know, this here tells that you can raise big licks of money using crowdfunding. The answer that we usually give them is, it's not so much wanting to put up a project for a commercial cooktop element. She said, what can I give a reward to a consumer that's going to pledge something to me? I can't give them a commercial cooktop. But she knew a lot of these chefs on MasterChef and all of that. Autographed cookbooks from those chefs. Again, being creative with those rewards and finding out those inducements that really spurn people into wanting to support the project. We had an author recently, final example, an author who wanted to publish a book, basically said, if you pledge $0 to $10, I'm going to send you a really nice personalised thank you card. Pledge between $10 and $25, and I'm going to send you an autographed copy of the book. Pledge between $25 and $50, I'm going to have your name printed in the front of the book as an acknowledgement to say thanks for coming along for the ride. And pledge over $50, I'm going to name one of my characters after you. So all these inducements, and they don't need to be tangible, they can be intangible sorts of rewards, but the sorts of things that inspire people to want to participate and get on board. So why people pledge, you know, when we were starting the platform, people were asking us, why would anyone want to pledge money to this? It's one or more of these four reasons. One, they like you. So if Emily, because she's such a good mate, if she turned around and said, Bryan, I'm starting a campaign, have a look. If I ever wanted Emily to talk to me again, I'd want to be pledging $50 to it, because otherwise she probably won't ring me ever again. Number two, they're passionate about your cause or like your story. So if you're raising money for, say, Asperger's, and you can tap into the community where people are passionate about a particular cause or outcome that you're driving towards, they'll have that propulsion to want to support. They're after the great value rewards. Those guys with the TikTok watch that we showed before, the little iPod Nano watch band, they said this is going to sell for $75, but if you pledge $50, you can have one. Gee, that's pretty good. I would have bought one at $75, but for $50, I'm going to pledge $100 and get two of them. And they're spurred on by social kudos. So whenever someone, if you're a project creator and someone pledges money to you, thank them on Facebook in front of all their peers and all their friends. That's social kudos. They love it and they'll do just about anything for it. Practical applications. There's been a fair bit of media report recently about ASIC coming out and saying crowdfunding, you can't use it for small business, you can't use it for startups, you can't use it for this, that and the other. I think the technical term is bullshit because it's a technical term, I can use it. Really, what ASIC's saying is you cannot use crowdfunding in Australia as yet to solicit or get funding in by issuing of securities or equity or financial returns in your venture. So if you turn around and you offer a watch band to be, you know, an autographed copy of a book or something like that, not a problem. If you start to offer equity, if you start to offer shares, if you start to offer a financial return, number one, we won't put it on iPledg because we can't do it because we'll get yelled at. Number two, if you find a platform that will do it for you and ASIC finds out about it, I think they kick your backside till your nose bleeds is, again, the technical term that they use. So, again, small business, startups can use crowdfunding and have done and continue to use crowdfunding successfully in Australia to fund startups. The way to do it is through the methods that we talked about before, by the pledge model, not by selling equity, financial returns, or security. Now we'll get to this slide. So basically this is what our site looks like. This is iPledg. And to give you an idea, project creators put this together themselves by clicking on create and just walking through the wizard. But what a project has to it, the components of a good project are a bit of media, so a video, a few photos. Video is fantastic because it conveys the emotion, it conveys your enthusiasm and the reality behind the product. When we say video, you don't have to go out and do a Steven Spielberg production. Very, very easy. You get your iPhone and you shoot a 60-second video basically telling what it is, let people see you, see your enthusiasm. If you can get a few supporters as well, that's always good too. So a bit of media, photos and video, project description, saying who you are, what your credentials are, if you've got some, your compelling story, your team, if you've got a team, and what you're actually raising the money to be able to do. So what is the actual project that you want to spend the money on? Few people forget that, surprisingly enough. A funding target, so in this case these guys were after $25,000. A funding time frame, and you get to choose anywhere from 30 days to 120 days. And then rewards, small increments that you can offer people as inducements for them to pledge their. So if that project description is good, if your video is good, you tell it well, they will engage. If you give good rewards, they will engage. And they have to hear about it. You really have to go out there and crow about this and let as many people know about what you're doing as possible. Breaking down bigger projects, again, you know, some people come to us and say, I want to raise $100,000, but they don't have the sufficient network to be able to go out and promote this from which they can draw pledges. Crowdfunding obviously works for bigger amounts, I've demonstrated that, but it works best for amounts between $3,000 and $30,000. Again, work out the size of your campaign relevant to the size of your network, break it down into bite-sized pieces. There's more likelihood that bite-sized pieces will actually get up and succeed as opposed to going for a huge target. Keep in mind, this is all or nothing funding. If you set a target at 100,000, you get to 90. If you don't get to your target, you get nothing. The people pledging money don't part with any money, but you get nothing. So you're better off to say, I want 20,000 and get it and exceed it, and then come back a second time because success can be successfully sold off success. You should have seen autocorrect trying to fix that sentence. Okay, this is a money tree. We grow these down the Gold Coast quite a bit. But people confuse crowdfunding with a money tree. This is not a money tree. This is not a matter of planting a seed and sitting back and, you know, waiting for autumn for the leaves to fall. This is a matter of a campaign. People say to me that, you know, crowdfunding is work. Yeah, it's teamwork. It's a matter of going out there, putting your project up, and then engaging your audience, engaging the crowd, tweeting, Facebooking, email blasts, database marketing, phone calls, getting out and talking to people, engaging the media, writing press releases, all that sort of stuff to try and get your audience involved. Stats, and more stats. We're getting close to the end of the presentation. He's pulling out numbers. Okay, 45% of all projects listed on crowdfunding sites reach their target. So about half of them get there. If you want to look at the other way, half don't. 21% of all projects on crowdfunding sites raise no money at all. So these are the people that think it's a money tree. They put the project up, do a beautiful presentation, put it out there, sit back with their arms folded and wait for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. Campaigns that hit 30% of their target succeed 90% of the time. The importance of that is initial impetus. If you can drive it, if you can get to your 30% pretty quickly, even if you've got your fans, friends, family engaged before you start your campaign, ready for when your campaign starts so you get that quick acceleration, 90% of the time you'll go all the way. Campaigns with 4 or more external links raise 103% more in funding, so having links on other sites linking back to your project, and you can link it to specifically your project page, not the whole iPledg site. The most commonly pledged amount, is $50. It's an interesting stat. The reason I put that up there is when you're working out your rewards, make the one for $50 really, really sexy. Because if you can do that, you've got more likelihood that people will pledge that amount.